Men today are drifting, not collapsing, not defeated, just drifting, like a ship whose compass isn't broken but demagnetized. We're living through a time where men don't know what role they're supposed to play, not because they've failed, but because the world around them has lost its sense of direction. If you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, what exactly am I supposed to be? You're not crazy, you're not weak, you're not broken. You're reacting, correctly, to a civilization that used to hand men a map and now hands them a list of accusations. You feel it in small ways. You hesitate before speaking, wondering, is this offensive now? You hesitate before leading, wondering, will someone call this controlling? You hesitate before acting, wondering, is this toxic? And if you've ever wondered why you feel unanchored, like something fundamental is missing, it's because modernity cut the anchor chain without giving you a map. We took away the old scripts, we tore up the old stories, we mocked the old archetypes, and then we never replaced them with anything that actually works. So men drift, not because they have no strength, but because they have nowhere to aim it. For most of human history, men inherited identity, not in a controlling way, but in a stabilizing way. You knew who you were because the world told you clearly, you are a builder, a protector, a creator of order, a carrier of responsibility, a link in a chain older than yourself. A boy didn't have to guess what a man was. He saw it in his father, in his grandfather, in the men at church, in the village, in the workshop, on the land. The stories reinforced it, the myths reinforced it, the rituals reinforced it. The expectations were high, but they were clear. You might not live up to that standard, but at least you knew what the standard was. But now, that lineage has been replaced with noise. Endless commentary, endless criticism, endless think pieces written by people who have never actually forged anything, never actually built anything, never actually led anyone in the real world. Instead of, you are a builder, a protector, a man the world can lean on, men here, sit down, shut up, you've had your turn, you are the problem. That lineage has been replaced with labels, accusations, shaming, disorientation disguised as freedom. Men are told to be harmless, polite, reduced, declawed, apologetic for existing. We tell boys, don't be too assertive. We tell young men, don't be too ambitious. We tell husbands and fathers, don't be too traditional. In other words, don't stand up too straight, don't speak too clearly, don't burn too brightly. And then society wonders why an entire generation is medicated, isolated, and spiritually starved. You cannot strip a man of his script and then act surprised when he forgets his lines. Masculinity isn't toxic. Wounded masculinity is. Toxic masculinity is a slogan with no definition, a ghost, a fog, an accusation meant to shame men into self-silencing. It throws everything into one basket: male courage, male competition, male aggression, male assertiveness, all shoved into the same box and labeled dangerous. But masculinity is not a bug in the human system. It's a feature. The same aggression that can harm is the same aggression that stands between a home and a threat. The same drive that can become domination is the same drive that builds nations, companies, and families. When we attack masculinity itself, instead of healing the wounds inside it, we don't create safer men, we create weaker ones. And weak men don't become gentle. They become resentful, they become withdrawn, they become confused. Men stop showing aggression properly, so it comes out improperly. Men stop leading with purpose, so they lead with frustration. Men stop feeling useful, so they stop feeling alive. A man who doesn't believe he has a rightful place in the world will either disappear from it or try to force his way back into it. Both outcomes are dangerous. Masculinity is not the enemy. Masculinity is the antidote. What we need is not less masculinity, but masculine men whose power is disciplined, aimed, and anchored in something higher than themselves. Talk to men privately, and you'll hear a common sentence: I feel invisible. They don't always say it out loud. Sometimes it slips out as a joke. Sometimes it's buried in a half laugh, a throwaway remark. Nobody really cares what I'm going through. Men are burdened with responsibilities, but starved of acknowledgement. They're told, provide, shut up, Handle it, don't complain. And many do. They work jobs they hate, they swallow stress they can't name. They absorb pressure they can never offload. And when they finally look up and realize nobody sees the cost, something inside them goes quiet. A ghost is someone who's present but unseen. That's how millions of men feel every single night. They're in the room, but they're not really in the room. They're there at the table, but nobody asks them what they think. They're part of the family, but only as a background function, not as a soul with needs, desires, and wounds. And when men become ghosts, they don't always explode. Most of the time, they just fade into screens, into addictions, into private fantasies, into quiet despair. We say, why are men checking out? Because we train them to believe their inner world doesn't matter as long as the outer world stays intact. Men don't break loudly, they break quietly, not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 tiny betrayals of the soul. Through 1,000 small dismissals, a lifetime of suppressed emotion, years of being told to toughen up, decades of being needed but never nurtured. Boys are often taught one emotional skill: shut it down. Don't cry, don't question, don't show fear, don't admit confusion. At first, this seems strong, stoic, controlled. But repression is not strength, it's deferred collapse. Every time a boy hears "stop being dramatic," when he actually is in pain, a tiny fracture forms. Every time a young man opens up once and gets mocked or minimized, another fracture forms. By the time he's an adult, he's trained to present a hard surface and a hollow interior. And here's the problem: when you don't know how to process pain, you outsource it into substances, into rage, into workaholism, into isolation. Broken men aren't born, they're neglected emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes physically. We tell ourselves, he seems fine. He never talks about it, so it must not bother him. He's strong, he can handle it. No, he learned to be silent. He learned that his pain is an inconvenience. He learned that his role is to absorb impact without complaint. But nobody can ever live like that forever. Men today don't have tribes. They have usernames, notifications, group chats, but no brotherhood. We've never been more connected and never more relationally malnourished. A man can be in 10 group chats, like 100 posts, respond to 1,000 memes, and still have no single person he can call at 2 a.m. and say, "Brother, I'm not okay." For most of human history, a man's identity was reinforced in a circle of other men: elders, peers, mentors, friends. They'd work together, fight together, build together, worship together. Now, a lot of men are trying to answer their deepest questions alone in the glow of a screen. A lone wolf is not dangerous because he's vicious. He's dangerous because he has no pack. Without a pack, there is no one to correct him, no one to encourage him, no one to calm him, no one to aim him. So his instincts, good or bad, swirl unchecked. The modern world has given men infinite content, but almost no communion. Men need purpose greater than themselves, a horizon to move toward, something in front of them worth suffering for. Men need structure, not as a prison, but as a scaffolding. They need discipline, not as a punishment, but as a path to potency. They need responsibility, real responsibility, where their choices actually matter and other people genuinely depend on them. Men need respect, not ego worship, but the deep sense that their effort is seen, their presence is valued, and their sacrifices are not invisible. Men need brotherhood. Men they can stand beside and say, "I've got you. You've got me. We're not doing this alone." Strip all that away, and men don't become free. They become lost. Because men heal by taking responsibility for the battlefield in front of them and forging themselves into someone capable of victory. Not fantasy victory, not video game victory, real victory. Being a stable father, being a faithful husband, being an honest worker, being a man whose word means something. You don't heal a man by telling him, "Stop trying to be strong." You heal a man by telling him, "Here is where your strength is needed. Here is where your courage matters. Here is where your sacrifice changes lives." If you feel lost, drifting, unanchored, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're a man living in a world that forgot what men are for. The culture around you is confused. It doesn't know what to do with masculine strength. So it either attacks it or tries to neuter it. But the answer is not to abandon your nature, it's to reclaim it, cleansed, disciplined, and directed. You are not a mistake. Your strength is not a mistake. Your desire to build, protect, provide, and lead is not a glitch in the system. It's part of the design. Kindred protocol exists to rebuild what you were denied, to name what was never named for you, to give language, structure, and brotherhood to the thing you felt your entire life but could never fully articulate. The pack is forming. This is your signal fire. You are not drifting alone. You are being called home.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.